Hi. You are officially welcome to another PLD session on Python programming. And in today's session, we are looking at two major things: string formatting and control flow statements. Last time that we met, we dealt extensively with strings, but what we were not able to cover is string formatting. And this is a very important aspect. For that matter, we'd have to get to it and take a look at what this means and how to use it. In fact, when we talk about string formatting, basically we are looking at being able to incorporate various expressions, statements, variables, functions into a string that you are writing, okay? So any type of object, being able to incorporate it into a string that you're writing. I can say like adding content dynamically to a string. And let me get my editor up so that we get to see exactly what I mean by that. If you're coming from a C background, I mean you program in C, this will look a bit similar. I mean some of the things we'll be doing will look a bit similar. Where I mean PLD. Oh. Excuse me. Okay. Right. So I'm opening my text editor so that we go through what string formatting is. Create test2 for this purpose. Test2 .py. Then let me use the terminal. So from what we did last week, if you needed to write a string, and a string is basically a collection of characters that are put or enclosed in quotation marks, and we mentioned that these quotation marks could be anything. It could be single quotation marks, double quotation marks, and it could also be triple quotation marks. All right, and basically you just go ahead and write it. Let's say this thing is taking forever to come. Okay, so launch my interactive mode of Python. Then if I want a string that prints my name, I'll just put it in like that with the quotation marks and say my name is Obed. This, and hit enter. So that is how to create a string in Python. But then we've learned that we can keep data in variables. Okay, so by formatting a string, we want to be able to have access to the data that are stored in variables or other forms of objects, which we will find out soon. Say I have this variable Obed. I mean the variable is name and it contains my name Obed. Okay, if I want to incorporate this into my string and I go ahead and I say my name is, because I've stored it in a variable called name, and I go ahead and I use name, surprisingly this doesn't work because it prints the literal. Once you put the thing in the question marks, we've talked about string literals, you are literally saying that I want to output everything here. So we printed my name is name instead of printing my name is Obed, thinking that that name contains what is a variable that contains Obed. So how then do we get our string to incorporate this variable and keep it in there? We'll look at the practicalities of this right now, but for now, let's see how do we make sure that this second name that we have in the sentence or the string that we are creating evaluates and gives us Obed. and not just the literal name. Okay, so there are three main ways that we can format strings. And so we are looking at string formatting. There are three ways that we can do that. The first one that we are looking at is the old style using this percentage symbol. That's the style that came with Python from the beginning. Okay, if you know anything about Python's history, you know that it was implemented using C programming. And if you know something about C programming too, this will be a bit familiar with you when we talk about the formatting of strings. So basically, to use this percentage symbol to format a string, all that you have to do is int the string where you want to include that thing, whether a variable or an object to be evaluated, in our case, a variable, you need to indicate this is for position, like where, or let me say it's a placeholder. So where I would want to put that particular variable, I'll go ahead and put this more there. But then what type of data is the variable? The last time, remember, we talked about types of data being strings, integers, floats, then booleans. Okay, sorry, booleans being the four major built-in data types in Python. So if it is a string, I have to indicate that it is a string. If it is an integer or decimal per se, you have to use this flags, or it could be a float. Okay, so any of these, you use it to tell the specific data type that you are going to place there. So let's go back to the editor and let me show that. Here we know that Obed is a string. And if Obed is a string and we need to put in that string, then what we are going to do is say, put in my name is, instead of just quoting name, as we have seen that will not solve the problem, we go ahead and place this %s as a placeholder for the name. So %s is simply telling us that
I'm not seeing your screen again.
Is any other person having the same issue? Yes. Can you see it now? Oh, okay. You might try and probably refresh. Try and refresh.
Doc,
Hi,
I think
Tony.
there's someone here, Olushola Bright.
Olushola
Bright is
okay.
Yeah, so
Hi,
it's kind of
hi, Bright.
So just off your screen,
Bright,
please.
kindly.
Bright.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is it off now?
Yeah, it's off.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's off, Abi.
Yes. So you might try, if you are still not seeing it, then try and
no, it's okay.
refresh from your end. Okay, so all right. So my name is with the %s being a placeholder for what I'm going to put there. Okay, then I enclose it. Now that I've enclosed it, I can go ahead and explain what the %s is supposed to be. So my %s is, this is how you explain what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to contain that name variable that we have here. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and write %name. So see what we have done. My name is %s. By saying %s, we are saying that in this particular position, we are going to put a string here. Then after we have defined, we have written the string. The string is everything that is within the quotation marks. So after we are done with that, we now go ahead and tell it what exactly is that string. So in this our case, the string, which is a variable, is the variable name. So we go ahead and run it, and now it prints out my name is Obed for us. So let me rewind. We use this %s to tell us that we are going to put a string there. Okay, so whenever, this is going to be replaced with a string. Then after we've written the string, we'll go ahead and tell it exactly what string to put there. But don't forget that we had %s in front of the name as well, the variable that we are going to use. So specifically, when you are talking about this %s, the s is known as a format specifier. It's formatting. It is telling us the format that we are going to use. So specifically, it is a string that we are going to use. Let me go ahead and create multiple other variables. F name is Obed. Then the next name, surname is Ehoneah. Then let's say age is 99. So now, let's say I want to write a string that says my first name is Obed and my surname is, or let me make it simple. My name is Obed Ehoneah and I am 99 years old. I want to do this, but I want to do it dynamically. So, we should be able to create variables and put it in there. And I've already created the variables for the first name, the surname, the age. So how do I go about it? Simply start creating my string and say, so say my first name is going to come, and my first name is a string. So I do %s, and after my first name, I'm going to have my surname to also come, which is also a string, %s. So I am Ehoneah, Obed Ehoneah, and I am something years old. So the number of years, we've called it age, and it is an integer. So we either use a D or an I for it. I am this years old. Then we close our string. So now all that we have done is we've written a string, but we've left in the string some placeholders that will be replaced by other data, okay, or specific data that we are going to use to replace. So right after the string, we have to indicate what is the data that we want to use to replace all of these placeholders. So the first one, remember I said these are positional placeholders. So when I put it here, the very first one I put here will come and replace this first one. The next one will replace the second one, and the next one will replace this one. Okay, so I just go ahead and say %. The first one is F name. Then the next one will be % surname. Then the next one will be % age. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Oh, not enough argument for format string. Oh, coming s %s. Okay. So when it's multiple, I shouldn't have made that mistake. We have to pass it as a tuple. Let me correct it. I am %d years old. So if you have multiple options to add, what you have to do is put everything in a bracket. Okay, so your % and everything in a bracket. So here we'll have the first one being F name, the next one being surname, followed by age. All right, then you run this. So now we have the sentence, I am Obed Ehoneah and I am 99 years old. As simple as that. Okay, so if it is just one, you leave it without bringing the parentheses. But if you have multiple placeholders, you have to put all of them in parentheses. Okay, so let's try writing a program, our test2 program. is going to do the same thing, but this time I wanted to do it dynamically. So we are going to ask our end user to tell us their name and what their age, so that we'll make our program now print out the statement, you are this and you are this years old. So let's get started with that. Shabang user bin Python 3. Then you go ahead take the input from the user. So say first name is equal to, last time we learned how to use this input function. So input, then we say first name. Great. Then surname is equal to input surname. Then age, remember that your age input always returns a string. Don't forget that. We talked about that last week. Age. So if you don't want input to return a string and you want your age to be an integer, you can typecast it to an integer, and we can do that by passing everything to an integer function that we learned about the last time. So we can have something like this. That means that whatever number is entered for the age should be converted to an integer before storing the integer in this age variable. Okay, now we want to display onto our screen. And from last week's sessions, we learned that to display something onto the screen, we use a function called print. And inside a print, we pass various strings to it. Okay, we can have multiple strings to pass to the string, to the print function. So in this our case, we want to print the string that has placeholders in it. So your name is, then we start by your first name, followed by your surname, and you are your age, years old. So this isn't any different from what we did here. Okay, what we did here, I am this and I am that years old. Then we passed all of this. So it's similar to what we are doing, except that we are doing it inside the print function. So we are formatting the string the way we want. Then we use the print function to print it out. Basically, that's what we are doing. And that's the essence of formatting, string formatting, which we are learning today. Okay, it helps us to format the string in a way that we want before we display it outside. So we'll go ahead and do %. Then the first one is f name. Sorry, since there are multiple of them, we have to use the parentheses. Then pass the first one as f name, followed by the next one as surname, then the last one as age. So once we go ahead and print this, we expect that the f name will replace this one, the surname will replace that, the age will replace this. So hopefully, let's save it and try running our program to see if it works. First of all, we need to make the script executable. How do we do that? chmod +x, then test2.py. Okay, now that it's executable, we can go ahead and execute our script. It's asking me for my first name. So my first name is Obed. My surname is Ehoneah, and I am 99 years old. So it says your name is Obed Ehoneah and you are 99 years old. So that is basically how we are going to format it using the first type of formatting style that is available. Unfortunately, what has been realized is that there are some data structures, okay, that we are going to talk about probably in our next meeting. which when you pass to this particular type of formatting, ends up giving you some errors. So they had to improve on it. So even though this is still available in Python and you can use it, it isn't the best option to go with. So now we'd have to look at another option. In fact, I shouldn't even spend more time on this because only few people will be using that. But then it's also good to know, even though sometimes you wonder that if this thing is old and not so many people are using it again, why do you even teach me in the first place? It's good to know because you may be employed somewhere where you are working on an old code base. The code that you are working on is not something that was created with a new Python programming language, but some old one that you are still maintaining. They can't just move it to another language, okay, because it's a very big project and everything. So you should also be knowledgeable of the things so far as it is available. If it has been duplicated, that is, they've taken it out or they no longer support it and things, those ones sometimes you don't want to waste your time on learning it. Understanding it is okay, but you don't want to waste your time and learn it. But if it is something that they still use and it's still available, then you have to learn it. You have no excuse. So let's go ahead. The next one, that is the what we call string.format. Okay, so that's the next type that we use. And it's kind of similar. It's kind of similar to what we have done, except that here the placeholders are just curly braces. So anywhere you are going to put something, just leave it as a curly brace there. Okay, so if I'm going to replace this one with, maybe I should just go straight to the code. All right, so instead of using this line, let me put a comment here using old style formatting. Then now let's come to the new style formatting. This new style formatting was introduced in, I think, Python 2.6. So new style formatting, which is in the form of str.format. Good. So let's try implementing this same line. And all we've got to do here is this, replace this with the curly braces, okay? So instead of %s, you are going to put curly braces there. And same with this. So let's see if this is going to work for us. Then what happens is that, you see the format I showed you is what? Str or string.format. So all this thing is represented by your str or string that you find here. So you have to follow this with a dot format. Yes, so it should be in this form, dot format. Then you pass the various variables that you want to pass to it. So hopefully when we run this, it should give us the same outcome as the first one. So let me see, maybe I should print something to separate them. I'll print, okay, an empty line, just an empty line to separate them. Let's go ahead, run this. First name is Obed, surname is Ehoneah, age is 99. And he says, your name is Obed Ehoneah and you are 99 years old. Your name is Obed Ehoneah and you are 99 years old. So basically, we've been able to implement this with the old style over here, and we've now converted it to the new style here. And the only different thing that we did was that instead of using these format specifiers as in the old style, we then use curly braces to represent the placeholders. That anywhere we see a curly brace, we know that we are going to put something there. Okay, that's basically what we have done here. The interesting thing is that unlike the first one, where we specify that this is a string, this is a string, this is an integer. In this particular case, that is not what is happening. Everything that we are passing with this is being converted to a string because we've not specified anything. So even though here we forced our integer, we did the explicit type conversion or typecasting from string to an integer with the help of the int function. When we are going to display it, it is forced back to a string to display. So if we don't want that to happen, then we have to indicate the data type that we want it to be, okay, or the data type that we expect it to be. So the other thing that I could have done with this line, instead of what I currently have, is to have specified in here that, okay, this very first one is a string, and this is how we specify it with the style. It's just a colon S, okay, and this is also a string, whilst this over here is going to be a decimal or I for integer. So hopefully when we run this same program this time around, we should get 3 lines. Let me print an empty line separating them. So those of you who have not seen this before, the empty line is because of this print statement. If you remember from last week's session, I told you that by default, print statement has end is equal to new line character. Okay, so if you refuse to pass any object or value to the print statement, it still has this new line character in there, which is going to print. That means that it's going to create that empty space for you and move whatever is after it to the next line. Okay, so that is how come we are able to get the empty line with just your normal print. All right, so hopefully when we run this, let me bring it up and clear the screen, then run it. Okay, first name is Obed, surname is Ehoneah, age is 99, and see what we have here, the same thing. So your name is Obed Ehoneah, you are 99 years. Even though it is the same result, practically what has happened is that this 99 here is not a string. It is an integer or a decimal for that matter. Okay, so those of you coming from ALX, some of the tasks they mentioned that you shouldn't convert it or there should be no typecasting. All right, and if they say there should be no typecasting, you know that you can't use this format. You would have to use this particular format because that is where you have explicitly stated the data type that is allowed over there. Okay, but there are some few other challenges with this. Imagine if you have a lot of these placeholders, okay? You are going to be writing a lot of them, and even the order in which these ones come, how sure are you that this very one is the first name and the next one is the surname and that? So to solve that particular problem, what we do is instead of just passing them like that, we can even use their indices. So assuming that here what I've done is first name first, surname, then age. What if I want to make it surname first, then how is it called? Surname first, first name, then age. Okay, so we can equally do something like that by using their indices, where you should always remember that for indices, we start counting from 0. So this is index 0, index 1, index 2. So we can go ahead and say that, okay, here I want to, let's say, have the index 1, which is my surname, sorry, 1. Index 1, which is my surname, should come first, then followed by index 0, which is my first name, then followed by the age, which is index 2. Okay, so we can have something of this nature. And basically what we are saying is that here, this particular position, I want index 1, whatever will be placed at index 1 should replace what this placeholder. Then this is whatever will be placed at index 2. The advantage here is that no matter how many of the parameters you are going to put here, you can explicitly tell it that you have to be at this position in my string and you have to be at that position in my string. So hopefully, maybe I should, okay, so if I clear the screen and run it again, sorry, run, it's Obed Ehoneah 99. Good. So here you see that there's a difference here. Instead of the normal Obed Ehoneah, now we are getting Ehoneah Obed. And the only reason why we are getting it so is because we have put here that we want whatever is at index 1. And I've explained that this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2. Hopefully in the next session, we'll be learning about various data structures, and all of these will make so much sense. But for now, remember that indexes start from 0. So index 0, index 1, index 2. So if I now put my mind and go and make this 2, you know that it will replace that with the H. Okay, so that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to use some form of keywords. Okay, we can use some form of keywords for it, where keywords basically means that I don't want to be using indexes like positions here to replace them. I want to say that, okay, this place, whatever it is, I'm going to take, say, first name. Here, I'm going to take surname. Here, I'm going to take age. Okay, so let's try that one too out. Write another one. Say, instead of this, let's make this last name. Make this, I just want to differentiate something, so let me make it this way rather. First name, then say this is years old, something of this sort. Okay, so once I've introduced these ones, as what? Keywords. So if I need to pass this data in here, what I have to do is that I have to indicate each keyword and what it is. So I have to say L name is equal to, L name is equal to, so I'm assigning a particular value to it. But this time around, we already have a variable called surname. So I'm just saying that L name is equal to surname. This currently doesn't make sense to you because you already have surname and you are calling L name or something. But then all that we are trying to do is that we are making sure that at this position is only what we assign to L name that should replace it. Okay, even though this particular one that we did here made so much sense, it will not be easy to keep track of all the indices, provided you have a long list of items in here to use to format your string. That would be a bit difficult. So in those situations when you have a lot of those ones, you would rather use the keywords. So pass the keywords rather, and once you pass the keywords, it becomes easier. So here I say that L name should be substituted with my variable called surname. Then I go ahead and say first name should also be substituted with my variable called what? F name. Then the last one is years old should be substituted with my variable called age. All right, so please pay attention to these ones. Like when we are not using them practically and we are just explaining the concept, you may think that I think this is quite useless too, because we could have equally achieved this with something like this or that. So why are we even going to now rename each of them? But when you begin building complex applications, you begin to appreciate why these ones are important. Okay, so for now, your own is to understand how we use each of these. Don't pick and choose that I think this is better, or I think this is easier, so let me choose this one. I think this is easier, so let me choose. No, understand how each of them is implemented, so that when you start building your complex applications, the one that is most efficient or comes easy to you or easy to use in a particular circumstance, then you go with it. Okay, so just focus on understanding how each of these is working. Here we are using key names, and the key names will be assigned particular values. So it could have even been that I don't necessarily need to pass the variable. I want to pass the string directly. Okay, that's also even possible, but I don't see a use case for that. So for now, let's pass this variable. Go ahead, clear this, and run our program again. Obed, Ehoneah, age 99, and that is it. So the last two lines, you see that here we use L name for the last one, but here we use the index for it. And here we use first name, here we use index. So that's the only difference, but it's working as we want it to. Okay, so these are some of the ways, and we've looked at 4 main ways that we can use the new style formatting. Okay, however, you can also realize that as the number of variables here are increasing, the number of variables that we have to place in this sentence are increasing. See how long my sentence is becoming, and it's not the most convenient, if you can agree with me. Assuming I have 25 of these variables to pass to this particular string that I am formatting, you're going to get a very long line, and it's not going to be easy to keep track of. So that led to the newest format, which was released in Python 3.6. So that's like the most recent of them all, and that is known as the F string. So the F string formatting style. Let's take a look at that. With the F string formatting style, basically what is happening is that okay. All right, let me just go ahead. So the string that you want to create, you just append or you write F in front of the string. So if this is the string I want to create, I have F in front of it. So anytime you make a string in Python, remember that a string is collection of characters put into quotation marks. But then if you have an F, whether a capital F or a small letter F, before that quotation mark, then you have a formatted string. That's an F string type of format. Okay, and this makes things way easy for us. So if I want to print the same thing we have up here, what I have to do is say print, then in here I have F, okay, with my quotation marks, and I'm going to pull this here. Instead of writing this LF out, so ideally, let me remove these ones and show you how. So this is how the F string actually looks like. But for F string, we don't have to come and define anything after we have written our string. We have to put each of them, the placeholders, we put each of them in here. So the very first thing here is I want it to take my F name. So I have to tell it that I want you to take F name. This will take surname, and this will take age. So I am done. This thing that, see how long it was here, just to get the same thing on this line, see how long it was. But then with the F string, you are able to directly incorporate all those variables in there, in the string directly. So you don't need to finish writing it and come out to come and write anything. So this is the newest way, and it is like the easiest, or if I am allowed to say that, okay, or the coolest amongst them all. So for now, let me comment some of them so that we still have enough space. Where did you run to? Okay, great. So let me take this again. You just have F in front of your string. Then you still are going to use your curly braces, but here inside the curly braces, put the variable name. It could be any other thing, not just variables. It could be any object at all. So it could be even a function. It could be an object of a class, which we'll look at later. But then just know that this is the format. Whatever you want to dynamically put inside the string, just put it inside the curly braces and it's supposed to work for you. So clear my screen here, then run the file. Obed Ehoneah 99. Great. So this is the last one. And as you can see, we achieved the same result as we wanted, but in simple words. And here, we don't lose track of any of our variables. I know the position that I want to keep this one, and I put it there myself. I know the position I want to keep this one, and I put it there myself. For the previous one, we had to use either the indices or just leave it to their default positions that we put it, or we have to use some keywords to get them. And that is making it complex. So to simplify things, we just use the F string and do this. So I said something about the F string that we can put almost anything in there. So let me just quickly print. No, I think let me go to the interactive mode and do that there. Python 3. All right, so what I was saying is we can do something of this sort. F, then pass some expression, say 2 plus 3 here. And it's going to do the calculation for us. That's the interesting thing about it. So what happens here is that this thing inside the curly braces is going to be operated on, the outcome will be generated, then it will be converted to string before the outcome is given. Okay, so if I run this, it should give me a string of 5. Okay, so you're getting 5 as the answer. Simple. Any questions so far about string formatting? We've looked at all the 3 major types. That there's one extra type, but it's not very common, so we are not going to talk about it. But these are the default ones, the ones that comes with Python and recommended. In fact, the last one that we have done is what is currently the recommended format, the F string. That is for the newest version. But then, as I said, if you still have old code base that you are working on, let's say a program that was developed in Python 2.7, you can't use F string in Python 2.7. So you still need to know about the previous one so that you can always make your way around them. Yes, any questions? One last thing, if there are no questions, one last thing about the F string. Here, you can always do this colon and S to tell it the type of data that you want, or I mean to do typecasting, explicit typecasting. So that is also acceptable if that is what you are interested in. If you want it to remain a particular data type, then that is how you are going to do it. Great. So now that we know this, when going forward, when we need to format our strings for
it my network?
I think it's from Doctor. I don't think it's a network.
I was thinking it's my network. I'll come back.
Hi, can you hear me now?
I hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Can hear you.
Okay. Unfortunately, my light is off. That means that my second screen is also gone. I'm going to struggle a bit. So I think we've already done like 40 something minutes. Let me try and run up quickly with the conditionals. This is bad. Okay. All right. So we've completed the session on the. Oh, sorry. Can you see my screen? Okay. I'd have to share the whole screen so that you can. Otherwise, I'm going to struggle. All right. Pardon me for that. I have to share my whole screen. That's why you're seeing it like that. All right. So let's move on to what we call control flow. Maybe I'll just introduce it here. We may continue from the next session that we have. Okay, just trying to wrap up by 1 hour. Hi everyone, sorry. And now my laptop is off, so it's unfortunate. Let's end the session now, and I'll communicate when we meet again. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you, Doctor.
Okay. So sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
about
you.
that also.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Sorry about your structure.
All right. Bye bye.